Hi guys, so today's video is going to be about when I discovered that I was transgender. Now to start off with, it was either back in freshman or sophomore year of high school, so this being 6 or 7 years ago, that I didn't feel quite right. I started feeling more comfortable wearing guys' clothes and acting more like a guy. Now, the only term that I'd come across that this could describe was tomboy. So I'm like, alright, I'm a tomboy. There were several times throughout high school that I'm like, you know what? I want to be a guy. I'm going to grow up and get a sex change. But because of the way society had me growing up and also my parents, I was like, well, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But deep down, I still really wanted to. And it wasn't until after high school that I actually discovered a word. At first, since at the time that I didn't even discover transgender yet at this point, and this was when I was 20, I want to say. It was either early last year or the year before. And first I discovered genderqueer. And that was actually because a blog that I follow, Asphyxian, they are genderqueer. So I was like, I actually find it absolutely wonderful. That's when I first really discovered it, and that's when I was like, that's awesome. That I don't have to be a gender that I don't always feel comfortable being. Now, at the time, I was dating a very verbally abusive and emotionally abusive guy who said I needed to act more girly. Because when he first met me, I was very tomboy. My hair was actually short. It was like a little bit longer than this, like to my earlobes. But that's how it was. And he wanted me to be girly. And it wasn't just like, he just really wanted, no, he's like, you need to be girly. You need to act like a girl. So, when I first discovered genderqueer and gender fluid, I decided to be gender fluid because just being able to go back and forth was wonderful to me. However, my boyfriend at the time responded with, well, okay, but I'm not gonna be your boyfriend when you're a guy. And the big part was, I wanted to be a guy almost all the time, so that really hurt. So I kind of just stuck with being gender fluid online and not really worrying about it that much. After I broke up with him, I was still gender fluid for a while, but I had discovered the term transgender. My best friend is transgender. He's the one who got me to research it and start thinking about it. It wasn't until November that I was literally sitting there at Walmart working at the fitting rooms, because I was working in the clothes section. I'm sitting there thinking, I wear my binder way more often than I wear my bra. And the only times I ever wear my bra is when I either just don't leave myself enough time to get ready in the mornings, put on my binder, or I just feel really lazy. There were very, very few times that I would put on my bra that I was actually being a girl. So I sat there and really thought about it, and by this point I'd already started dating my current boyfriend, who is a heck of a lot better than my ex, and was already very understanding of my gender fluidity, and was perfectly fine, and I always let him know in the morning, like, hey, I'm gonna be a guy today, or hey, I'm gonna be a girl today. Just to let him know. But that day, I'm just sitting there thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm transgender. Now, sitting there at work, I wasn't 100% certain, and I couldn't just, go on the internet and look it up. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go home, do more research, and see if this is really who I am. And after reading it, I can't for the life of me remember what it was, and also talking with not only my best friend who's transgender, but another good friend from high school who was transgender. Talking with the both of them about it, and thinking, is this really who I am? And I came to the conclusion that yes, I'm transgender. I should have been born as a guy. Also, as a Christian, I don't personally know anyone who is either Christian and transgender or Christian and transgender and blames God for this. My personal opinion is God didn't make a mistake. You know, He made me to be who I need to be. So if for the first half of my life, for the first part of my life, I needed to be a girl, okay. You know, it's kind of whatever. But the point is, I feel I should have been born a guy. You know, God didn't make a mistake, but I should have been born a guy. Now, that sounds really contradictory, and I'm sorry for that. I don't really know how to put it a different way. But when I found out about the term transgender, it was, I think, I'm almost positive it was my best friend who, he discovered it first, and then he was talking about it. And the only term that I'd heard before them that sounded anything like it, sorry, there's a giant cat hair on my shoulder that was bothering me. Anyway, the only term even close to that I'd heard growing up was, of course, tranny, transvestite, and, you know, it was always looked down on. So, that was one of the bigger reasons I changed my mind constantly in high school, saying, you know what, never mind, I'm just gonna be a girl. Because I didn't want society to look down on me. You know? I'm really sad that I learned it that way, and that it took me till being almost 21 years old to realize this is who I am. I'm gonna make sure my kids think differently, that if, you know, something's up and they don't feel like they're the right gender, then it's fine. I was really excited the first time I got my binder, because it was actually the friend that I'd known through high school, not my best friend. It was his first, and then he gave it to my best friend, Finny, and then he actually got a better one, so he gave me this one, and I loved it. I even tried it on before just for cosplaying and stuff, and I loved it. Just the feeling of, I still have tits, but it certainly doesn't look like I do. Pardon me. And that's a fantastic feeling. Especially because I have 34 double Ds, and they're really big. And binding is really difficult, and really annoying. So, also, I recently found out my insurance covers that. I'm really excited about that. Top surgeries. Anyway. That reminds me, I did post a link to a list of insurance that covers transgender healthcare stuff. Like, I'm not sure if it's just specifically for anything to do with transgender, or anything general stuff, but you're just transgender, or if it's just for, like, top surgeries, or, you know, hormones and stuff. I'm pretty sure it's just the latter, because I'm pretty sure these are also just regular, medical insurances. Anyway, so, how I came up with Ace was, I've always really liked it for some reason. I didn't really think of it as a name at first. Like, I didn't think it was a normal name used in society, which I've never met another Ace, so I'm pretty sure they're out there, just haven't met them yet. My favorite card in a deck of cards, like a regular 52 playing card set, is the Ace of Spades. I really want to get the tattoo of such on my wrist, but anyway. And I made, usually if I make a character and it's just like a throwaway character, I usually use the name Ace. In fact, for my troll OCs for home stuff, my ancestor is named Aseta, which is just with Ace at the beginning. Because I really wanted to use it, and anyway. And I sort of used it as a nickname a little bit. I didn't really use it much because it's just like nobody really knew me as that, so it wasn't really much of a nickname. But I really wanted people to use it. I was like, man, one day I want to be known as Ace. And people kind of looked at me like, why? Your name's fine. Even your nicknames are fine. But I was like, I don't know. I mean, my birth name is very pretty. Don't get me wrong. I've always loved it. But it's just really feminine as well. And after a while, it just seemed uncomfortable. And even still hearing it now that I've been called Ace so long, now that I'm, transgender, I don't like hearing my own name. It's kind of sad, my birth name, and my parents still use it, so it doesn't help. Anyway, so when I became gender fluid, I said, alright, well, I can't really use my birth name, so I'm gonna use this name, because it sounds more gender fluid-ish. I can go back and forth and still be Ace. It was really hard to get my family to start using it, as in fact, my aunt and my cousins still do not. My parents try their best, and I definitely appreciate that. And then when I became transgender, it was a very brief moment, because I'm like, I know my best friend Finney had to come up with a name, and he actually had a different name first that he really liked, and then he was like, or he didn't really like it. It was just more of a, I kind of like this name, I don't really know about it yet, and then he switched to Finian, and it works out perfectly for him. Anyway, I knew there was a thing with that, and even my good friend from high school went through a name change, and it was very brief that I was like, I'm gonna have to come up with a name. Wait a second, I already have a name, Ace. And so there you have it. So I realized I was transgender in November. So it's been, December, January, February, March. It's been almost 5 months since I discovered it. And I know it's a really short time, but I felt this way for years. And finally finding a word for it, as many of you probably feel, it's fantastic to be able to be like, this is what I am. Anyway, that's my conclusion. I would love to be able to hear, for any of my followers, or anyone who watches this for that matter, I would love to hear your story of how you discovered, if you're not cisgendered, I want to hear your story of how you discovered it. So if you have any questions, please send me a message on YouTube or on Tumblr. And if you have any suggestions for advice, please do the same. I don't know if these are going to be a daily thing. This is probably like my second or third in a row, date-wise. And that's pretty fantastic. Usually these have been like once a week. So I might stick to once a week if I have something I really want to talk about, like the day after, then it might happen. But there you go. There's not really a set schedule for these until I really get like more things to talk about. Anyway, that's it. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please remember that your gender is valid, and please stay safe. Bye, guys.